Hello. Today I wanted to pitch my voice into the arena. In the tag video that Emily Noel started, which she titled Makeup Pet Peeves of 2019. Now this one never made the cut. This is my Marc Jacobs eyeliner pencil, and after lining my lashes, what I find is that the lid removes the sharpener. Somewhere around here is the rest of the sharpener, because eventually the sharpener snaps off, and that leaves me in the perilous position of not being able to recap my eyeliner. Certainly this is a pet peeve. I feel that this liner could dry out if I lose this little useless piece. Believe it or not, this one never made my list of top fives. So much for joining me. My name is Mary. This YouTube channel is how I'm tracking my 2019 no-buy year. The purpose of this video is to very quickly cover my top 5 pet peeves for makeup items in 2019. And I'm going to add skincare to that list. In no particular order, but perhaps starting with the most socially obnoxious issue, I'm going to begin with the topic that I mentioned in my Tempted Not Tempted video, which I will also link up in the cards. When I put on this lipstick, am I supposed to jump in my mind to the best orgasm I've ever had? I'm really, frankly, surprised that Saturday Night Live has not parodied these products. Now, I am guilty as charged. I have purchased 3 NARS products in the orgasm colorway. Cosmetic companies seem a little bit preoccupied with orgasms. On one hand, clearly sex sells, but to illustrate my distaste of this trend, I'm going to have to invite you into my studio, where for the past 10 years I have worked as an artist. I have studied the human form in the nude in order to create allegorical or transcendent images that feature the human form. On the surface, in-depth studies of the way light falls across the human form, but at its best, in the tradition of the history of art, the female and the male nude forms are used to illustrate the most universal themes that humans encounter in the course of our lives. The power of the nude is undeniable throughout the history of art, from primitive to classical to the 19th century Beaux-Arts to modernism, all the way through postmodernism and the whatever ism we are currently working in today. Now, my personal style throws its umbilical cord back to the traditions of classicism, the Italian Renaissance, through the French Beaux-Arts, through the Boston School of American Realism. I'm going to invite you into my studio, and I want you to picture the scene. I'm going to insert a slideshow of several paintings of studio spaces that I feel best illustrate that sacred space where artists work. If you've never been into a working artist studio, that sacred space where the artist who works under natural light studies the human figure. It is a sacred space. It is generally very dark. The only light is natural north-facing windows. Everything is set up for the comfort of the model, and never in my decade of experience teaching classical art, never, ever, ever would I break that sacred trust that I take great care to nurture between myself and my models by bringing anything sexual into that experience. I do realize after the pieces leave my easel, I don't have any control over whether that particular drawing or painting is objectified or fetishized. I understand that, and it's a risk I'm willing to take. I do not feel complicit in the support and the continual reinforcement of rape culture, which essentially is a cultural phenomenon where sexuality and nudity is used to objectify the female form, to objectify the act of sex to a transaction instead of an intimate exchange, and where eventually our acceptance of sexuality and even violence is first trivialized and then normalized. And I feel that if you're interested in that topic, please do start that discussion in the comments below. I did have an interesting comment on my last video where someone pointed out to me, rightly so, that Urban Decay often names their products after violent sexual acts against women or violent acts against women. Okay, let's take a gander at their list of lipstick names. See how raunchy we go. 69, Alpha, that's a term for dominance. Asphyxia, backdoor, euphemism for we know what. Barfly, lovely, image. Crank, cruel, carnal, disobedient, exhibition, F-bomb, gash, that's lovely. I think I'll stop there. I'm not saying that language needs to be sanitized. I'm not suggesting any kind of censorship for these products, but I personally am not interested in products that take that route, that sell cosmetic products which have the potential of positively impacting our self-image and our body images. And I'm not interested in products that corrupt that potential with a reinforcement of that overtly hypersexual culture. Whether or not you take it as far as rape culture is your own decision. Okay, that was a doozy. The rest will be shorter, I promise. My number two pet peeve is fragrance in skincare, and this is especially addressed to global fashion, cosmetic, perfume houses that blur the lines unnecessarily between their product categories. I love Chanel products, but I do not enjoy the fact that they heavily scent their cosmetic products, blushes, some of their powders but especially the blushes, the cheek products, with fragrance. Please, Chanel, let us choose the fragrance that we wish to wear on that particular day, on that particular season, and with that particular vibe that we are building when we build our theater of identity. It does not need to be a cacophony where everything you're wearing it has a competing fragrance or its own branding, if you will, in that manner. When I put a Chanel powder on, it speaks for itself. I do not need the scent to tell me what I'm wearing. All right, and it's a problem for people with hyperreactive skin. My third pet peeve is relatively tiny, but I feel that you have to admit that the internet has completely transformed the way we purchase and consume not just cosmetics, but everything we purchase and consume. And thus, especially with the flood of high-end cushion foundations that we are nearly drowning under in the spring of 2019. And even though I'm on a no-buy year, I would like to see this as I get back to shopping in 2020. I would like to justify the expense of some of these luxury cushion foundations, but the only way I can do so, I'm 60 miles from the nearest Nordstrom. The only way I can do so reasonably on my schedule, so it doesn't take an entire day out of my week, is to be able to put my hands on significant sample products. Now, I am willing to pay for significant sample products. I feel that Le Labo, the perfume house, does a very good job. You can purchase a set of 5 or 6 sample sizes of their boutique fragrances for a very reasonable charge. I would like to see certainly the high-end cosmetic house offer the same thing to their customers. I would do that. I would partake. They would be more likely to close that sale with me if I could try the product before I purchased it. The fourth pet peeve has to do with how similar specifically eyeshadow palettes are as they are dumped onto the market. The image that comes to my mind is that we are little guppies in a fishbowl, and this is the little can of fish food. This represents the cosmetic manufacturers, and NARS, Too Faced, Urban Decay, even Anastasia Beverly Hills, what they do on their calendars of releases is they open a big vat and they dump all the fish food into the tank at once, and the guppies gorge themselves. But we are all gorging ourselves on the same flavor fish food. During any given season, everything in the fish food is either a warm palette with berry tones, or most recently, everything in the fish food is a neutral, wearable, daytime beige. I'm thinking even Natasha Denona and Chanel fall onto the bandwagon with their recent releases. I feel that as guppies, we should be more intelligent, and we should selectively feed on the flavor food that we truly enjoy. If your vibe in June 2019 is heavy metallics, you should be able to look at the market and purchase something reasonably fresh, interesting, and new along your flavor palette. I'm not saying every house has to produce everything all the time. That would be absurdity. But you should, as a consumer, have a broad buffet to select from. And my final pet peeve has to do with skincare. My main active skincare ingredient for my skin is a daily dose in the evening of generic Tretinoin in a formula that I purchased from Curology. I will link that below if you're interested. It is, for me, even though I have health insurance, it is the most reasonable way I can get that daily dose of Tretinoin. Invariably, what happens on my no-buy year, as I am out of my current cleanser, I dip into my sample or deluxe sample size box, and I pull out a face wash. Now, if you can see this text, this is white text on a very reflective blue translucent bottle, and I would need a Sherlock Holmes sized magnifying glass to decipher the text on this bottle, to dig into the ingredient list. Or I could spend a whole lot of time digging up the information on the internet. In the morning when I'm getting ready for work, I don't have that luxury of time, so I generally trust that a cleanser is a cleanser, basta, period, that's it. Keep it simple, people. However, invariably what happens is 2 or 3 days into said deluxe sample size, my skin will start to peel again. And it's not the Tretinoin, it's not my skincare routine. It is the culprit is always the new sample size product that I've incorporated into my routine, trusting that it was a simple cleanser. A cleanser is a cleanser. A cleanser should not, in my opinion, be flooded with high-powered actives. My philosophy for skincare is to keep the products simple, keep them as close to the underlying active as you can, so that the consumer understands exactly what they're putting on their skin, and they can choose and select intelligently, reasonably, logically what they would like to use in their skincare routine. Please stop putting high-powered actives in your other products. A face oil should be a face oil, not a face oil plus vitamin C, because that's a problem for me. A cleanser should not be a cleanser along with a chemical exfoliant, because I already use a chemical exfoliant that works for me. Please, people, be reasonable, be focused, so that we can choose the products that are best for us. Thank you so much for indulging in my little rant. Off camera, my more significant rant is the window in my studio every once in a while decides to open itself. The weight of the window sash opens itself, and I've been filming this in a room that is not currently climate controlled, and I'm helpless to I spent about an hour and a half trying to force it back closed, and it's going to require my husband and a ladder. So anyway, thank you for indulging my rants. I hope you're having a lovely week. If you're not a YouTube creator, I certainly encourage you to pick up your cell phone and give it a go. But if you're still working up to that idea and you'd like to talk about some of your pet peeves with cosmetics, please do leave those comments below. Have a lovely evening. Ciao.